Imagine you're a crow, stealing fries, judging strangers from a wire, plotting something. Then a giant, strange creature reaches down and pulls a piece of plastic off your leg. What do you do with that? Do you feel something, or is it just noise in the void? Whether wild animals understand when a human is helping them sounds like a simple question. It isn't. By the end of this, you'll never look at a wild animal the same way again. For centuries, science treated animals as biological machines. Stimulus in, reaction out. No feelings, no understanding, just reflex. In the 1800s, this became a formal rule. Morgan's canon. Never assume a complex mental process when a simpler one explains the behavior. A dog looking guilty isn't feeling guilt. It just learned that face means trouble. Caution has its place. But for decades, science overcorrected. And then the research started proving it wrong. Start with dolphins. Off Hawaii in 2013, a wild bottlenose dolphin approached a group of night divers with a fishing hook buried in its fin, line wound tight around it. It didn't flee. It swam straight to one diver, Keller Laros, and held still. When the tangle blocked his access, the dolphin repositioned its own body to give him a better angle. A wild, untrained animal that had never met this man, making a decision. I can't fix this. Maybe you can. He freed it. The dolphin lingered close for several minutes before it swam off. That's not reflex. That's assessment. Ravens and crows go further. They solve multi-step puzzles, use tools, recognize individual human faces, and hold grudges. Researchers at the University of Washington wore specific masks while trapping crows, then kept wearing them around campus. The crows didn't just remember the threatening face. They recruited crows that had never even seen the trapping to mob it. They gossip about you. But they also remember kindness. People who feed crows regularly get gifts back, shiny trinkets, placed exactly where the food usually goes. A crow freed from a trap may file that moment the same way. Not reflective, but real. Which means when a crow lets you help it and doesn't flee, it might be running a calculation in a brain the size of a walnut. Here's the fair counter. Maybe the animal isn't recognizing help. Maybe it's just too exhausted or injured to flee. That happens. But researchers have documented pro-social behavior across species that goes past that explanation. Elephants pull each other out of mud with their trunks. Rangers have watched wild herds move carefully around injured humans instead of trampling them. Elephants have also been seen covering dead humans with branches, the same mourning behavior they use for their own dead. That's not self-preservation. That's empathy crossing a line it has no evolutionary reason to cross. Feeling something and understanding help are two different claims, and a study out of Japan tried to separate them. Wild-born capuchin monkeys watched humans either help or obstruct someone reaching for food, then chose which one to accept food from. They consistently picked the helpful one. Here's the part that matters. When monkeys watched a human be unkind to a total stranger, not to them, not to anyone they knew, they still refused that person's food later. They weren't tracking how they'd been treated. They were tracking character. A monkey watching you with someone else is quietly deciding what kind of creature you are. Now the necessary caution. A trapped or injured wild animal floods with stress hormones and can shut down completely. A freeze response called tonic immobility. From outside, it looks like calm. It isn't. Rehabilitators know the difference. A genuinely settled animal breathes differently, holds its muscles differently, sometimes leans into contact instead of enduring it. One veteran raptor rehabilitator says birds she's worked with for weeks turn toward the sound of her footsteps specifically, not a stranger's. Not because she fed them by hand, because she consistently meant safety. Something in that bird's map of the world now includes her as the absence of danger. Then, the case that stops everyone cold. December 2011, off San Francisco. A humpback whale was found tangled in crab trap lines, cutting into its mouth and fins, exhausted from hours of struggling. Divers spent over an hour cutting it free, working around a 50-foot, 50-ton animal that could have killed every one of them with a single flinch. It held still the entire time. When the last line came free, it didn't vanish into the deep. It circled back and approached each diver individually. One described being nudged, gently but firmly, in a way that felt intentional. Another said the whale positioned its eye, the size of a grapefruit, level with his face, and just stayed there. It didn't treat the water the same everywhere. It treated the people who freed it differently. That's recognition. So why would a wild animal read human kindness at all? For most of shared history, a human approaching meant danger. The instinct to flee us is ancient. The answer seems to be architecture, not exception. Animals in complex social groups, dolphins, elephants, primates, corvids, constantly read intention. Is this a threat or a greeting? That machinery is flexible by design, and it doesn't check what species is standing in front of it. A dolphin reading a diver's body language isn't doing something miraculous. It's applying an ordinary skill to an unusual subject. Wild animals may understand kindness not because they know what a human is, but because they know what kindness looks like. None of this is universal, and the failures matter too. Rehabilitators say plainly that some animals never relax in care and explode out of the carrier on release day without a backward glance. That's not a failure of the science. That's the animal doing exactly what it should. There's a darker risk as well. Animals that get too comfortable around humans become easy targets for people who don't mean well. That's why serious rehabilitation deliberately limits contact, feeding from behind barriers, using puppets instead of hands. Sometimes helping a wild animal means being kind, without letting it know you're the one doing it. Every encounter you have with a wild animal becomes data in that animal's model of what humans are. And that data doesn't stay private. It moves through corvid warning calls, elephant herd memory, the young watching how the old react. The crow remembers your face for years. The dolphin repositions its body to help you help it. The monkey refuses food from someone it watched be cruel to a stranger. The whale circles back to look you in the eye. None of that is coincidence, and none of it has a name we've fully worked out yet. So today, when you slow down for something crossing in front of you, know that somewhere out there, a crow is filing you into a folder it built entirely on its own. You might as well make it a good one.